talk to you guys about media. So for fun, I thought I'd give you a quick little Wesley Media history lesson. So about Wesley Media as a ministry area has only existed for probably about 7 or 8 years. So if you can think back to like 8 years ago, this is around the time that the mobile use of social media started skyrocketing. You can thank Instagram for that, Facebook. Mostly, if you, like when 8 years ago, I was a junior in college, I still had a BlackBerry. I wasn't really doing a lot of Instagramming on my BlackBerry. So like the iPhone era really changed everything in media. And it suddenly, our generation, our culture really started looking for all things. We were drawn to all things that were like aesthetically pleasing. The message that something carried, suddenly that it was as important of what that message looked like how something looked was as important as the message that it was carrying. And I think that's always been true, but I really think in the past 10 years that correlation has strengthened. We pay more attention to something when it looks good. So around that time also, about 8 years ago, Bob switched his teaching style to be based on short series, 4 or 5 weeks, rather than isolated scriptural topics. So Wesley Media was born out of those two things. One, a need to communicate to our students in the way that they were already communicating to each other. And then two, to provide video and graphic support for Bob's messages on a Wednesday night. And so since then, Wesley Media has grown and evolved with the culture, with the ministry area, to encompass a lot more than just that. So when I talk about media to my staff, to anybody, I usually like to break it down into 3 main purposes. So our first purpose is to serve and enhance all the other ministry areas at Wesley. And then number 2 is to communicate the voice of Wesley to this campus. And then number 3 is to worship God through creativity. So I'll talk about each one of those really fast. So the first one is like our day-to-day, serving and enhancing the other ministry areas of Wesley. This is something that I like to talk to my staff about as early in the year as I possibly can, because when you look around at all the ministry areas at Wesley, there are a few ministry areas like media where most of our day-to-day is not ministering directly to students. A lot of ministry areas are. You think about Freshly, Discipleship, Encounter. A lot of their day-to-day is actually ministering to students. They get to have like hands-on, one-on-one conversations where they're ministering to students. Our day-to-day on media is much more internal. It's a lot more behind the scenes. And so that to me actually is incredible. Like I think it's such an honor. And I think that our ministry area, I just really genuinely think it's an honor that we get to come alongside every other ministry area and enhance what they are doing so that they are better able to minister to the students that come to their events. For example, Freshly, we get to help them make their promos, their graphics, any kind of social media things. And hopefully, as freshmen see those things, they're more engaged with the service. They want to come to the service so that Freshly interns and Freshly leaders can minister and those students can encounter God. Another example that we do is for the outreach ministry. We make invitations for them to pass out on campus every week. So again, we're creating something for them so that they can go, therefore, and minister and impact students. So it's a lot of fun. One thing that I really love about our position in this is that we really get to take the dreams and ideas that other ministry areas bring to us, and we get to say, how can we partner with you in this? How can we make your dream a reality? So that when someone comes to us and say, we really want to try this idea, this transfer student night, and they come to us and we're like, okay, how can we come alongside you and help make this dream a reality? What can we do to enhance, to serve this idea and make it better, make it happen, and make it so that more students can come in? And I just think that's a really fun position to be in. The other thing is we're uniquely positioned to get to see a lot of what goes on in the ministry. We kind of have like one hand in each ministry area, which is also just really cool. So that's kind of our first primary thing. We'll expand the scope a little bit. So what drives us? That is to communicate the voice of Wesley to this campus. So this is where we get to have kind of like a more direct impact. Here at Wesley, we have a lot of different sayings. One of those sayings is "you're invited." "You're invited" kind of comes out of the same heartbeat of every student matters. As y'all learned yesterday in the theology talk, one of the most important things that we believe as a ministry is that every student matters to God, and therefore they matter to us. And therefore every single one of them is invited into a relationship with God, into eternal life with Him. And so as a ministry area, we look at it as our job to communicate that voice as far and as wide as possible. The voice of Wesley is that they are invited to know God. That is the one thing. There are 36,000 students on this campus. If they heard one thing from us, we want it to be that they would know that they are invited. They have a place. They are welcome home. They belong with the Father. That is the message that we want to communicate to them. So we do that through every medium that we can think of. So we have a team of 6 media interns who are devoted to just social media strategy. They're coming up with strategy for Twitter, Facebook, Instagram to try and get that message out as far and wide as possible. We have a blog that we write 5 days a week, kind of similar to the Freshly blog, where we're trying to communicate that same voice of you're invited, you matter, this is who God created you to be, and we're trying to get that out as far and wide as possible. Y'all may not know this, but there's actually a team of media interns and leaders that shows up to the Tate bus stop in the middle of the night before each series to paint our series graphic on the street. And right underneath it, they use the hashtag, you're invited, you matter, so that maybe just one student would see that and they would know, and they would know that they are welcome to come, and they are invited to know God, and they're invited to be at home. So those are just some of the little ways that we communicate that message, that voice, to the campus. And then number 3, okay, so our third function as a ministry area is to worship God through creativity. This is probably one of my favorite things about media. So the first thing that we learn in Scripture about God is that He's a creator. And then one of the very next things we learn about Him is that we're created in His image. So we were literally created with the expectation that we would also be creative, that we would also create, that we would cultivate, to use the language in Genesis. Now, I just finished reading Garden City. I don't know if y'all have read that book, but they use a lot of that same language. I'll read a little bit to you. Sorry. Okay, so we were all called to be creative like God by taking the raw materials that we have access to and building something out of them that makes the world a better place. That makes our world more like the kingdom and more like the garden. So by being creative, we actually get to come into alignment in one more way of like how God created us to be. And a really cool thing for all of you guys is that it's not limited to the media ministry. It's actually something that everybody can do, whether you're on Connect and you're creating a cookie, or whether you're in a ministry area and you're creating an idea for how to a new student event that we've never tried before. All ways are being creative, and all ways are reflecting the way that your Father is. And so you're like coming into alignment with how He created you to be. And all of it brings glory to Him, and all of it worships Him. So it's just like a really fun thing that I love about media, is that we get to kind of worship God in a really different way. So this is how I'll wrap up. We actually have a couple different opportunities for you guys to get involved with media this year, and I just wanted to share them with you really fast. So the first one, I mentioned the Wesley blog. So the Wesley blog is written by a lot of the media interns, but it's actually open to any interns who just enjoy writing. And so we're looking for people who enjoy writing. You can write like less often, like once every 2 months, or more frequently, like every 2 weeks. So if that's something, if you love writing and you would love to write for our blog, I'm gonna encourage you to talk to Emily Golden. She's gonna create a rotation in the next couple of weeks. If you wanna get in on that, talk to her. We would love to have you write for us. The second way, I know we have a couple photographers in the room. So if you have a camera, you like taking pictures, and even though you're not on the media team, we would love to have you in a rotation of photographers at Wesley and Freshly events, roaming around the internship during the week, just taking pictures, capturing memories. So if you would like to get in on that rotation, you can talk to me about that. Third way, I mentioned street painting. Lindsay Conway heads this up for us. If you like painting, or if you're good at making signs, J-Lo, you're invited. We would love to have you help us out at street painting as well. It's usually Wednesdays at like 11 or so. So we go right after the service and right before like the next series starts. We'll show up at the Tate bus stop around 11 p.m. So you're already at Tate. You just have to stay like an hour longer. Lindsay will bring the paint. It's lots of fun. Y'all just paint on the street. How often do you get to paint on the street? That's kind of cool. So you can come to that. And then the very last thing, this is something that all of y'all can do, no matter if you consider yourself creative or not. We do a testimony video blog on the blog, like we do a testimony video on the blog every Friday. And so we're looking to feature students and interns and testimonies that they have about how God's impacted their life in the past year. We're looking for 1 to 2 minute testimonies usually, and something that God's done specifically in this year. And my belief is that each and every one of you will have a testimony from this year, and there is power in your testimony. And when you share your testimony, it actually provides hope for the entire body, because when we hear what God's done in your life, then we have hope that he'll do it again in our life, and he'll do it more, and he'll do it bigger, and he'll do it better. So that's why we share testimonies, because they provide hope, and they fuel our prayer life. So if you want to be a part of that, I encourage every single one of you to just be thinking, like, how can I share this, and would this edify the body? And if the answer is yes, then you can talk to Sam Forbes. She's heading that up this year. So we would love for y'all to all participate in that as well. I think that's all I've got. Pass it off to Hillary.